Hey there, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating psychological framework that decodes this concept known as serial mastery. Look, if you've ever felt, kind of guilty for having all these seemingly random, distracting curiosities, well, you're in the right place. We're going to dive into the research that actually reframes those exact traits into a massive, high-performance competitive advantage.
Okay, let's just dive right in. Take a look around your room for a second. Do you have a bit of a graveyard of abandoned hobbies? Are there just half-finished projects lying around everywhere? Like maybe one month you were literally obsessed with perfecting a sourdough starter, right? And then the next you're buying a stack of Python coding books, or suddenly plunging deep into 19th century architecture notes. Does that sound at all familiar?
Well, if that is you, I want to immediately validate that frustration you've probably felt your entire life. Society puts this immense pressure on us, right? Labeling anyone with varied interests as a dabbler or a dilettante. We're fed this century-old narrative that the absolute only path to true success is to be an I-shaped person. A specialist whose knowledge looks like a single, straight vertical line going a mile deep into one incredibly narrow field. And because of that stigma, you might feel like a jack-of-all-trades, master of none. You might feel totally paralyzed by choice, or worse, you might actually feel like your intense curiosity is some kind of broken liability.
Section 1. Kind versus wicked worlds, navigating the modern environment.
So to understand why your varied interests are actually a huge advantage, we have to look at a major environmental shift. Basically, we need to look at the world you were built for. See, in the last century, humanity largely operated in what researchers call kind learning environments. These were predictable worlds with completely unchanging rules. Think of it kind of like a chessboard, okay? The parameters are set and hyper-specialists completely thrive there. But today, we live in a wicked environment. The rules change literally overnight, feedback is severely delayed, and the most important patterns are completely hidden. In this unpredictable, wicked world, those same hyper-specialists often develop really dangerous blind spots simply because they only know how to look straight down their one narrow tunnel.
Now, think about an M-shaped profile. This is exactly where the serial master thrives. Instead of being that single, narrow eye, you build distinct pillars over time. Your first leg might be data science. You go deep, it pays the bills. Your second leg might be storytelling, or maybe psychology. But the real magic? It's that horizontal bar across the top. This is your dash, your mile-wide knowledge of history, design, mechanics, and everything else that connects those pillars together. When you think about it this way, it proves you aren't just some distracted professional. You're actually a rare master of synthesis, completely capable of weaving complex data into a narrative that people actually understand.
Section 2. The Super Sensor Brain, recording reality in 8K resolution. Now you might be wondering, if you are so highly capable, why on earth do you get bored so easily? Well, let me reassure you, your brain is absolutely not broken. You are simply operating as a super sensor. You are recording reality in 8K resolution while most others are just recording in standard definition. And this beautifully illustrates why you struggle so much with routine. You have what psychologists actually call low-latent inhibition. Unlike a neurotypical brain that just automatically filters out background noise, your brain treats almost all incoming stimuli and complex patterns as highly relevant. You literally crave complexity. So when you're handed a routine, predictable task, your cognitive RAM is just vastly underutilized. Without a complex challenge to process, you just zone out. It isn't laziness at all. It's just a lack of bandwidth utilization. And this 8K processing power leads directly to your ultimate secret weapon, highly associative thinking. Specifically, a concept called far transfer. See, a specialist relies heavily on near transfer, which is applying a skill to a nearly identical problem. But you effortlessly connect completely unrelated structures. You might look at the branching root system of a tree and suddenly realize, wow, that's the perfect model to organize this complex database. Or you might take the harmony and counterpoint of a musical score and apply it to write incredibly elegant software code. You naturally prioritize the deep meaning and the connections between subjects, not just the empty facts. And that makes you an unmatched problem solver.
Section 3. Tactics for Serial Mastery, a playbook for the hyper-curious.
Okay, so now that we've diagnosed your cognitive architecture and realized your brain is essentially a high-performance radar system, we need an actionable playbook to prevent burnout. We can distill the daily psychology of serial mastery down into 3 specific, highly interconnected survival strategies. Let's break these down one by one so you can actually start putting them into practice immediately.
The absolute crucial point here is the 80% rule. This is also known as strategic quitting.
In serial mastery, you do not quit just because things got hard. No, you commit to a pillar for roughly 6 to 18 months until you reach core fluency, that 80% mark. Once your curiosity is truly satisfied and you finally understand the underlying structure, you aren't quitting, you're graduating. This isn't dabbling, it is a deliberate, highly strategic choice to move on and begin building your next pillar. Right, our second tactic is what we call the low-drain day job. This perfectly illustrates the stable platform strategy used by so many great polymaths throughout history. Think about Albert Einstein. He worked as a patent clerk. Why? Because it was a low cognitive drain job that gave him financial stability, but more importantly, it left him with the mental surplus he needed to literally wander the universe in his mind. Now, a quick warning here. If your day job consumes 110% of your mental and emotional energy, there is absolutely no surplus room left for the vast exploration your 8K brain so desperately craves. You really need to use your job as a platform, not a cage.
And finally, tactic number 3, the Zettelkasten. Because your scanning brain generates way more ideas than your working memory can ever possibly hold, you absolutely must use an external system. You can use modern apps for this, like Obsidian or Notion. Just think of the sociologist Niklas Luhmann. He used this exact tactic, basically a massive web of linked index cards, to write 70 books in his lifetime. When you are completely obsessed with a topic for a week, just capture those dots in your system. Then, maybe 3 years later, when you're working on an entirely new project, you can search that external web and connect those dots across time. Suddenly, all those abandoned hobbies from your graveyard, they become incredibly active assets.
Section 4. Becoming the bridge. Your curiosity is your legacy. So, as we wrap up this explainer, it's really time to reframe your entire self-perception. If you spent your life feeling guilty, coming from a place of shame for not sticking to one thing, it's time to step into a place of ultimate triumph. Listen, your brain was never designed for the static, predictable world of the hyper-specialist. You were uniquely designed to be the vital bridge connecting completely different worlds of knowledge. You are the one who can see the 8K resolution of life's complex messes and find the brilliant patterns that literally everyone else misses.
Your curiosity is for sure not a liability, it's your legacy. You are meant to see how everything connects. So I want to leave you actively engaging with your newfound far transfer superpower. Take a second to think about your own life, your own graveyard of hobbies, and your very own M-shaped profile. What is the absolutely weirdest, most surprising connection you have ever made between two completely unrelated fields? Keep exploring, keep connecting those dots, and I will see you in the next explaining.